This is your daily dose of all things royal. And the grift goes on, the grift goes on. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good looking friends. I hope by now you understand why I call this channel The Royal Grift. If you haven't seen my community page, I posted this. Today it's been announced that Washington, D.C., along with Birmingham, UK, have been shortlisted for host cities of the 2027 Invictus Games. I find this utterly gross, and the reason why is because we know that these two cities have been strategically chosen to be shortlisted, not because this is going to be the best thing for these Invictus Games. This is to serve Harry and Meghan. So let's talk about this shortlist, beginning with Birmingham, UK. So, some quick facts about this city. Birmingham is a city and metropolitan borough of the Metropolitan County of West Midlands in England. It is the second largest city in Britain, commonly referred to as the second city of the United Kingdom, with a population of 1.1 million in the proper city. And just last year, in 2023, Birmingham declared bankruptcy. So, what exactly happened in this financial crisis? A big contribution to it was pretty much management resources, aka corruption, and wasting money. So the city council faced a lot of criticism for spending on various projects that included a botched IT system by Oracle, which was supposed to cost 19 million but ended up costing about 100 million. Additionally, the council spent 184 million on its bid to stage the Commonwealth Games and invested in various other projects such as hydrogen buses, cycle lanes, and the 2026 European Athletics Championship. Add that type of recklessness from politicians onto the financial strain that the whole world is feeling right now as a result of these globalists. You have the pinch of inflation, rising demand for adult social care, and dramatic reductions in income from business taxes. You know, the elitist parasite climate crisis that has been created has been a force creating all of this hardship for its citizens, with the children being impacted the worst. Over 100,000 kids in Birmingham are living in poverty and going hungry. This is shameful coming from one of the richest countries in the world. So, knowing these facts, how is it that Minister for Veterans Affairs Johnny Mercer was able to secure up to £26 million in the spring budget to support the bid to bring the 2027 Invictus Games home to the UK? Explain that to me. When you have people who are going hungry and unable to make ends meet, the math is not mathing. If they brought the Commonwealth Games and it bankrupted the city, then why are you going to bring another event like this? Or is it because there's a lot of money laundering happening here? And I'm going to suspect that that might be the case. Also, anything that these two grifters are involved in, as you can see with Johnny Mercer at the last games, is no doubt corrupted. These two have been using the Invictus Games to fund their lifestyle, particularly around these events, whether it be flying them on the private jets and five-star accommodations, as well as the security costs, and also, let's not forget, Meghan's expensive, ugly wardrobe. In addition, don't think that they're not charging an appearance fee to grace everyone with their presence, because you know that they are. Meanwhile, the majority of these veterans and their families have to pay to participate, whether it be for their lodging, as well as their equipment and passage. It's so shameful to see what this is turning into. It's even more shameful that there's over 100,000 kids who are living in poverty in a town where 26 million pounds have just been suddenly made available to host this grift. You know, one has to wonder what that email between Harry and Johnny Mercer was about that was mentioned in this cost order for Harry's court case. As it says here, in November 2023, the claimant, Prince Harry, breached the terms of the confidentiality ring order by emailing certain information to a partner of Shillings, who was not within the confidentiality ring, and to the retired Honorable Johnny Mercer, MP. Fortunately, the breach was almost immediately detected by Ms. Fatma KC, who acted promptly to inform Ms. Afia of Shillings. She, in turn, informed the defendant via government legal department, as well as taking action to minimize the effects of the breach. The defendant nevertheless says that these breaches, for which the claimant, Harry, has apologized, caused the defendant to incur unnecessary costs, as can be seen from the correspondence which ensued. Something tells me that Birmingham is not going to win this bid. Being that they secured £26 million out of thin air, how about they use that money and apply it to helping the veterans? Or, here's a novel thought, help some of those children. Now, according to Convoy of Hope, and I don't know if this is a legitimate charity, I'm just using the number they have here as an estimate, they're estimating that it costs $10 per month to feed a child. So if we go with this number, £26 million or $32 million equates to 267,000 children per year. So given that this is more than double of the amount of children living in poverty in Birmingham, perhaps maybe they could spring for some really good ice cream on top of that, since they have a little bit extra. Or how about give that to the veterans? I hate to say it, but was Birmingham a real serious contender? I don't think so. I do think that Harry was trying to manipulate Johnny Mercer in some way for his security, but let's take a look at the other host city, which is Washington, D.C. here in America. I don't know about you, but today is the first time I'm hearing that the United States, Washington, D.C., had put in a bid to host these Invictus Games for 2027, and they've already made the shortlist. So I'm questioning who else submitted bids to host these games. It almost appears as if this was completely calculated. Before we get into my suspicions around this dodgy announcement today, let's talk about Washington, D.C. Here are some fun facts. As of July 1st, 2023, D.C.'s population was at 678,972, according to the census. Known for being a city with the highest economic gap as well as inequality, added to that, D.C. crime stats at the end of 2023, homicide, robbery, motor vehicle theft, carjackings, and overall violent crime is on the rise, thanks to the swamp donkeys. You would think that the people making the decision on where the next host city will be would put the people's safety first, but obviously when Meghan and Harry have their security covered, they could care less about anybody else, and we know that the United States is going to do that for them should they pick this city to be the host for the 2027 games. So according to Jack Royston of Newsweek, who is another mouthpiece for the Sussexes, he writes, by contrast, holding the games in Washington, D.C. would make it much easier to secure big names from American politics and cement his status as an advocate for U.S. veterans as well as the British forces community. No, Jack, that's not what's really happening here, and you know that. This is now going to be used to money launder and bribe politicians in the U.S. Watch. Harry's sneaky little wife is behind the scenes, most definitely still trying to get to the White House. You can bet that. Don't think that just because all the politicians from the Democrats right now have turned their back on Meghan, allegedly, she has given up on her ambition to become this totalitarian dictator of this country. No, quite frankly, I don't see this woman giving up, and she's going to do everything that she possibly can, even if it means riding on the backs of Invictus and using Harry for it through this route. Scary thought, but if it's allowed, Meghan will become the next Nancy Pelosi of this country. Don't you think Meghan would love to become the Speaker of the House? She would speak all day long and bang that gavel every 5 minutes. Don't think that she doesn't see herself in that capacity. Contrary to what people have been saying about the major players in the Democrat Party abandoning Meghan and Harry, I don't think that that's true. I think they've created this optic that they have, but behind the scenes, they're still working with them and still promoting them. Whether you want to believe it or not, these two are assets to our government under the wings of Obama. Washington, D.C. making the shortlist for the host city in 2027 for Invictus Games is not a coincidence, folks. Let's look at who actually has put forward this proposal. If you think the organization that has put forward this proposal wants to help veterans or is tied to veterans in any way, think again. Unlike the past Invictus Games, where the organizations and government entities that submitted bids were actually helping veterans, this bid from the United States comes from a for-profit company called DC Events, or Events DC, whatever. So, according to the Events DC website, Events DC is the premier host of conventions, sports, entertainment, and cultural events in the nation's capital. Their mission? Well, Events DC is supposed to be generating economic and community benefits for the residents and businesses of the District of Columbia by creating premier event experiences in the nation's capital and through the promotion of Washington, D.C. as a world class destination. What is not fully transparent from this website is how Events DC operates. And according to Wikipedia, it says Events DC receives more than $100 million in taxpayer money, but has an independent board appointed by the mayor. In addition to overseeing the Convention Center, Nationals Park, RFK Stadium, St. Elizabeth's East Entertainment and Sports Arena, and the DC Armory, it has provided funding to various construction and development projects in the district. It provided more than $200 million in public money into construction of the Marriott Marquis Convention Center Hotel and acquired the rights to the Carnegie Library. In 2017 and 2018, Events DC spent $150,000 to unsuccessfully lobby Congress to give the district greater authority over RFK Stadium, which could enable the Washington Commanders to return to DC. Events DC also oversees a community grants program, which awards deserving nonprofit organization, Archwell, with grants each year. In 2022, Events DC awarded 39 local nonprofit grants totaling $500,000. So, want to bet that a grant might find its way to Archwell Fugazi Public Charity? Maybe to sweeten the pot to win this bid? We shall see. So let's take a look at who's in charge of this quasi-public company that's receiving taxpayer-funded money but also turning a profit. Towards the end of 2022, Events DC names Angie M. Gates President and Chief Executive Officer. Now, if we were living in a different time and the left didn't focus so much on the color of your skin as well as your gender and your sex, you would think, oh, what a great accomplishment. But you can't help but think in the back of your head, was this just another DEI hire to further this socialist Marxist agenda? Let's take a look at her background and I'll let you decide. So, from the Events DC website, a 20-year veteran in the fields of event management, entertainment, film, and public service, Gates' expertise ranges from tourism and hospitality to film and venue operations. Notably, Gates was named the first African American general manager of the iconic Warner Theater and earned Washington, D.C. its first Emmy at the 60th Annual National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Award Show. Gates also recently received the President's Lifetime Achievement Award from President Joseph R. Biden. You gotta love that Angie has her own IMDb page in film and entertainment. And if you scroll to the bottom here where it says her extensive experience includes work with the former President of the United States, Barack Obama, and First Lady Michelle Obama. Gates began her career as a film specialist for the New Orleans Film Commission, and her film projects include Interview with a Vampire and Pelican Brief. So here we have another Hollywood type, and even though she is based in Washington, D.C., there's no doubt that there are connections not only to Barack Obama, but also to the Hollywood circle. Do I think that this is a layup and D.C. is going to be awarded this bid? Yeah, I think so. And do I think that Meghan is behind it? Absolutely. When you look at all the various factors, does anyone really believe that Meghan is going to want to go back to the UK? I mean, these people are short-term thinkers. So right now, Meghan's saying, no, Harry, look what Johnny Mercer did to you. We didn't even get our IPP status back. Forget about economic growth in Birmingham. Let those kids starve. Besides, H, don't you want to see me at the games? I'll never step foot back in the UK. Give it to Washington, D.C. so we could feel at home with the rest of the swamp. No doubt, Washington, D.C. is going to get awarded this bid, not because the city is actually the best place to host these injured veterans, but it's because, exactly to what Jack said, but take Prince Harry's name out of it and put Meghan's. Meghan wants to be closer to DC, and you know that she's going to weasel and worm her way in with these corrupted politicians. This is who she is. And don't think that she's not doing this on the back end. I mean, they're working on this censorship industrial complex. They're going against everything that America stands for. And right now, it's a socialist regime that is quickly and swiftly taking over America. If you haven't seen what's been going on with our universities, this is the result of this socialist Marxist movement that is going on, a movement that Meghan and Harry not only encourage, but support and participate with. Publicly facing, maybe it is on purpose that the Democrats have appeared to have distanced themselves. But behind the scenes, Meghan and Harry are executing on this socialist, progressive ideology. So why would they get rid of them, especially if they see them as influential with the youth in manipulating and brainwashing them and getting them in line to adhere to this new America, this transformative America, the America that Obama had intended when he first came into office. Do I think these politicians are going to care that it is competing now with the Warrior Games? No, they don't care. That's just more money being siphoned going towards promoting war. We know that. It's yet to be seen what's going to happen with Harry, but I think we all know, especially now with this move, if, let's say, which it's almost a guarantee that the award will go to Washington, D.C., that Harry's not going to go anywhere unless Invictus kicks him out. And, that is a possibility, but the veterans have to be the ones to push back and say, no, they don't want to participate. The likelihood of that happening might also be low because what we've seen is that nobody listens to what anybody's saying. They just pretty much do whatever they want. Take, for example, people telling Harry he needs to step down from African barks, but is he budging? No. And I do think the same thing's going to happen here. I think he's going to be called to step down, which I think he already is being called to step down, but he's not going anywhere because this is a money train for them. It's my opinion, but Obama and Clinton are still behind these two. Back in 2021, after Meghan lied her face off in the Oprah interview, and what we saw here in the United States was no challenge from the media. In fact, no one challenged Meghan's narratives and lies, and we saw what happened with the few that did. You saw very powerful people make phone calls to tell people to take back what they said or they got fired. So you know that there were forces supporting Meghan and all those lies. And one of those forces, seen right here with Hillary in what she said in the aftermath of this interview, she knows Meghan lied. Listen to the language that they use. They talk about diversity and breaking out of the mold and pretty much destroying tradition and taking the side of Meghan, knowing their full lies. So you have to wonder, in coordination with Meghan and Oprah, was Hillary a part of this? I'm starting to really think so.
To take a bit of a detour. Um, because when you were talking about the psychological and attitudinal issues facing women around the world, the entire nation, and by now the entire world, has been talking about the interview last night with the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, and her husband, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. And I'm wondering what happens when the business is a royal family. And the bigger issue here is what happens when you have women who are in powerful positions or in powerful families who feel like their voices are being squelched, their freedom is being denied. What Just talk about your thoughts and reactions to the interview, and what if there is a bigger message to women to be gleaned from what Meghan Markle had to say last night.
Oh, I thought it was an extraordinary 2 hours of television. And I thank Oprah for conducting the interview as only she could. I found it so heartrending to watch. I've met obviously both Harry and Meghan. I knew Harry's mother, Princess Diana. I know the other members of the royal family. And it just was heartbreaking that this incredibly accomplished woman, Meghan Markle, who falls in love with Prince Harry, was not fully embraced by not just the so called firm, which is the name for the permanent bureaucracy that surrounds the royal family, but by the media in the UK. I've had my time in the in the box with the British tabloids, as anybody who is in the public eye has had, and their cruelty in going after Meghan uh, was just outrageous. And the fact she did not get more support, that the reaction was, let's just paper it over and pretend that it didn't happen or it will go away. Just keep your head down. Well, this young woman was not about to keep her head down. This is 2021, and she wanted to live her life. She wanted to, be fully engaged, and she had every right to hope for that. And I just think that every institution, obviously last night we were thinking about, royalty in the UK, but every institution has got to make more space and acceptance for young people coming up, particularly young women, who should not be forced into a mold that is no longer relevant, not only for them, but for our society. And it was heartbreaking to see the two of them sitting there having to describe how difficult it was to be accepted, to be integrated, not just into the royal family, as they described, but more painfully into the larger societies whose narrative is driven by tabloids that are living in the past. And I just hope that there will be some serious, thoughtful consideration in all of the institutions, not just in response to what Meghan and Harry were talking about, but literally across all of our societies. Why do we make it so hard to incorporate diversity, to celebrate it, to be proud of it? And I just couldn't help but watch last night and really feel that these two young people, because by my standards they still are young, are not only standing up for themselves and for their children, but they're really trying to send a message about what institutions, including the one that they were part of, need to do to be more dynamic and forward looking than they currently are.
I've seen today many comments of people saying that, oh, well, 2027 is far away. By that time, Meghan and Harry won't be representing Invictus Games because they'll be kicked off. That might be true, but it's not going to stop them from currently abusing and taking advantage of funds, which is what they're doing right now with the Vancouver Games. That didn't even happen yet, but already they have managed to grift off the top of it. And we don't know how much they've taken, but for sure they got paid. The same thing is going to happen with Washington, D.C. So let's say the bid does get awarded. Automatically, there's a schedule of funds that have to come out periodically. So every year there's a type of budget. And within that budget is that entertainment budget as well as security budget and everything else that they try to grift off of. But in any case, that's what's going to happen. So they may not make it to 2027, but they will be grifting along the way. I mean, look, they're going to Nigeria to talk about Nigeria's position in hosting the games, in 2029? So they're going out there to talk about this now, while Invictus ends up paying the bill for that. Do you see how they grifted? They got to keep it going. So we've got this coming up. I just know that this is going to cause a lot of outrage with Americans, especially if American taxpayer money then gets allocated by the Biden regime, which we know it's going to happen inevitably. But also pay attention to Meghan's positioning now. What else does she have left? She's a failure at everything. The last thing that she has not yet jumped into full-heartedly is politics. And I feel like this move will bring her closer to where she really belongs, which is in that swamp. with the rest of these corrupted individuals, hopefully at some point ending up in jail. That's just my opinion. But what do you guys think? Do you think that this bid is going to go to Washington, D.C., or do you think they're going to have some type of compassion and give it to Birmingham, UK to help the people out? I don't know. Leave your thoughts below. But as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.